Hello friends, I hope you all are doing fine, and you must have definitely worked on our introspective assignment about comparing a rural village and a urban city. And as I told you, in this lesson we will try to know more about human civilization, and whenever we talk about human civilization, we will definitely talk about agriculture revolution. And this is what we are going to discuss in coming few minutes. So, why agriculture revolution is important? Agriculture revolution is important because it led to the formation of villages. Village is the most basic unit which is considered as the first permanent human settlement and which came into existence only after agricultural revolution. Let us discuss more about this agricultural revolution and try to explore its various dimensions. The agriculture revolution is the name given to number of cultural transformations that initially allowed humans to change from a hunting and gathering subsistence to that of agriculture and animal domestications. The first agricultural revolution, also known as Neolithic revolution, is the transformation of human societies from hunting and gathering to farming. This transition occurred worldwide between 10,000 BC and 2000 BC, with the earliest known developments taking place in the Middle East. There were three agricultural revolutions, rather three phases which changed the history of mankind. The first agricultural revolution was the transition from hunting and gathering to planting and sustaining. The second level increased the productivity of farming through mechanization and access to market areas due to better transportation. The third agricultural revolution involved hybridization and genetic engineering of products and the increased use of pesticides and fertilizers. So, let us further try to know more in detail about all these phases of agricultural revolution. Many facets of modern civilization can be traced to this moment in history when people started living together in communities. There was no single factor that led humans to begin farming roughly 12,000 years ago. The cause of Neolithic revolution varied from region to region. According to the editors of history.com, the earth entered a warming trend around 14,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Some scientists theorize that climate changes drove this agriculture revolution. In the Fertile Crescent, bounded on the west by the Mediterranean Sea and on the east by Persian Gulf, wild wheat and barley began to grow as it got warmer. Pre-Neolithic people called Natufians started building permanent houses in the region. Other scientists suggest that intellectual advances may have caused people to settle down. Religious artifacts and artistic imagery, progenitors of human civilization, have been uncovered at the earliest Neolithic settlements. The Neolithic era began when some groups of humans gave up the nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle completely to begin farming. It may have taken humans hundreds or even thousands of years probably to transition fully from a lifestyle of subsisting on wild plants to keeping small gardens and later tending large crop fields. Some of the earliest evidences of farming comes from the archaeological site of Tel Abu Huraira, a small village located along the Euphrates River in modern Syria. The village was inhabited from roughly 11,500 to 7,000 BC. The inhabitants of Tel Abu Huraira initially hunted gazelle, that is small tender antelope. Around 9700 BC, they began to harvest wild grains. Several large stone tools for grinding grain have been found at the site. What were the agricultural inventions of this time? The significant aspects of agricultural revolution included these aspects. Plant domestication. Cereals such as emmer wheat, incorn wheat and barley were among the first crops domesticated by Neolithic farming communities in the Fertile Crescent. Isn't it very interesting to know this? These early farmers also domesticated lentils, chickpeas, peas and flax. Domestication is the process by which farmers selected for desirable traits by breeding successive generations of a plant or animal. Over time, a domestic species becomes different from its wild relative. Neolithic farmers selected for crops that harvested easily. Wild wheat, for instance, falls to the ground and shatters when it is ripe. Early humans bred for wheat that stayed on the stem for easier harvesting. Around the same time that farmers were beginning to sow wheat in the Fertile Crescent, people in Asia started to grow rice and millet. So, rice and millet are as old as the agricultural revolution. Scientists have discovered archaeological remnants of Stone Age rice paddies in Chinese swamps dating back at least 7,700 years ago. In Mexico, squash cultivation began about 10,000 years ago, while maize-like crops emerged around 9,000 years ago. With reference to livestock, the first livestock were domesticated from animals that Neolithic humans hunted for meat. Domestic pigs were bred from wild boars, for instance. Wild goats came from Persian ibex, which was a mild mountain goat. Domesticated animals made the hard physical labor of farming possible, while their milk and meat, they added variety to the human diet. They also carried infectious diseases like smallpox, influenza and the measles, all spread from the domesticated animals to humans. The first farm animals also included sheep and cattle. These originated in Mesopotamia between 10,000 and 13,000 years ago. Water buffalo and yak were domesticated shortly after in China, India and Tibet. The draft animals including oxen, donkeys and camels appeared much later, probably around 4000 BC, as humans developed trade routes for transporting goods. Now, let us try to understand what were the effects of such Neolithic revolution. The Neolithic revolution led to masses of people establishing permanent settlements supported by farming and agriculture, and thus the notion of village developed. Friends, I take a minute to explain you why is village important. Prior to the formation of village, everything was migratory. People would move from one part to other. But village symbolizes the first permanent human settlement. According to Gary Crawford and Wayne Rasmussen, the excavation of Mehergarh, this is with specific reference to India I am talking, which is in present day Pakistan period, sites that is around 8000 to 6000 BC, throw some startling facts about Indian agriculture that began as early as 9000 BC. The domestication of plants and animals are reported in the Indian subcontinent by 9000 BC. Wheat, barley and jujube is our bear, were among the crops. Sheep and goats were among animals that were domesticated. This period also saw the first domestication of elephants, with the implements and techniques being developed for agriculture settled life soon followed in India. Double monsoons that led to two harvests, because in agriculture two harvests is very important. Two harvests being reaped in 1 year in the country facilitated the settled mode of production, which also contributed in the establishment of village. In Neolithic period, roughly 8000 to 5000 BC, agriculture was far from the dominant mode of support for human societies. But those who adopted it, they flourished. Agro-pastoralism in India, including threshing, planting crops in rows, in a particular row, either of 2 or of 6, and storing grain in granaries. They passed their techniques of agricultural production to the next generation. This transformation of knowledge was the base of further development of agriculture in India. It is a fascinating story. The agricultural communities became widespread in Kashmir Valley around 5000 BC. It was reported that cotton was cultivated by 5000 to 4000 BC in Kashmir. As early as 4530 BC and 5440 BC, you know friends, as early as 4530 BC and 5440 BC, wild Orisa rice appeared in Belan and Ganges Valley regions of northern India. At that time, hemp was also domesticated and its application was in number of things including making narcotics, fiber and oil. Indus Valley civilization relied on considerable technological achievements of pre-Harappan culture including the plough. The farmers of Indus Valley grew peas, sesame and dates. Rice was cultivated in Indus Valley civilization. Indus Valley civilization people, they also practiced rainfall harvesting. Can you imagine? At a recently discovered Indus Valley civilization site in western India, archaeologists discovered a series of massive reservoirs cut from solid rock and designed to collect rainfall that would have been capable of meeting the entire city's needs during the dry season. The Indus cotton industry was well developed and some methods used in cotton spinning and fabrication. The agricultural activity during the second millennium BC included rice cultivation in Kashmir and Harappan regions are also noticed. Mixed farming was the basis of Indus Valley economy. Several wild cereals including rice grew in the Vindhya hills, which is in present-day Madhya Pradesh, and rice cultivation at sites such as Chopani Mando and Mahagad, both in Allahabad of present-day Uttar Pradesh. They were underway as early as 7000 BC. Chopani Mando and Mahagara are located on the upper reaches of the Ganges drainage system. Irrigation was developed in Indus Valley civilization, which is very important for agriculture, around 4500 BC. The size and prosperity of the civilization grew as a result of this innovation. It eventually led to more plant settlements, making use of drainage and sewers. Sophisticated irrigation and water storage systems were developed by Indus Valley civilization, including artificial reservoirs at Girnar, and it dates back to 3000 BC, and an early canal irrigation system in 2600 BC. Friends, for a minute, just think how flourishing was Indus Valley civilization. The present day technicians, scientists claim that we are at the peak of technological development. But Indus Valley civilization, as old as 2500 BC, had tremendous techniques with regard to water harvesting, and today we are focusing again on water harvesting. The archaeological evidence of an animal drawn plough dates back to 2500 BC. Some animals thought to be vital for survival were worshipped. Trees were also domesticated and worshipped. We know about people and banyan tree, which was venerated, and that continues even today. Other trees that had their medicinal uses found mention in the holistic medical system of Ayurveda. There are repeated references to iron in the later Vedic texts ranging between 1000 BC to 500 BC. Cultivation of a wide range of cereals, vegetables and fruits is described in the text. Meat and milk products were part of the diet. Animal husbandry was also important. The soil was ploughed several times and the importance of seeds was emphasized, and a certain sequence of cropping was recommended. Cow dung, provided the manure and irrigation was practiced, was during this time. So, imagine it was a kind of a organic farming even at that time. During the 18th century, another phase of agricultural revolution took place when European agriculture shifted from the techniques of the past. New patterns of crop rotation and livestock utilization paved the way for better crop yields, a greater diversity of wheat and vegetables, and ability to support more livestock. These changes impacted society as population became better nourished and healthier. The Enclosure Acts of 1801, which was passed in Great Britain, allowed wealthy lords to purchase public fields and push out small scale farmers, causing a migration of men looking for wage labor in cities. These workers would provide the labor for new industries during the Industrial Revolution. The agricultural revolution began in Great Britain around the turn of 18th century. Several major events which contributed include the perfection of the horse-drawn seed press, which would make farming less labor intensive and more productive. The large scale growth of new crops such as potato and maize by 1750. The passing of the enclosure laws limiting the common land available to small farmers in 1760. There were several factors which have contributed to agricultural revolution. In many ways, British agriculture advanced more rapidly than any other European nation. The increased agricultural production of the 18th century can be traced to 4 interrelated factors. Let us spend some time to understand what were these factors. There was an increased availability of farmland. So, whenever there is more amount of farmland which is available, it gives a better scope for more kind of agricultural activities and also probably to cultivate different kinds of crops. Apart from this availability of farmland, another very important factor was a favorable climate. Friends, in today's time we are also realizing the significance of climate. It is not that the agriculture revolution which have taken place centuries back only had focus on climate. Now, how is climate connected with agriculture? It is under public domain. This understanding is in public domain. Favorable climate leads to favorable kind of temperature, favorable levels of rainfall, and all this contributes in a better kind of a agricultural output. Now, when you talk about country like India, where we are seeing monsoons, and because of the impact of global change, global warming, climate change which is taking place, we are seeing that the climate is not very friendly with regard to the agricultural activities. So, a favorable climate, especially in the contemporary context and in a country like India, is extremely important for appropriate agriculture output. And the similar logic was applicable even back during agriculture revolution. So, apart from the availability of farmland and a very favorable climate, more livestock was also important. Now, why was livestock important for agriculture? It was basically again connected with agriculture and the subsidiary occupations of the agriculture. So, better livestock definitely contributes for a better agricultural output. And when you have good farmland, you have appropriate climate, you have more of livestock, it will also help us to improve the crop yield. And when there was a crop yield, better crop yield and increased crop yield, that also contributed in the establishment of villages. The available farmland increased due to changes in land holding patterns spurred on by new methods of cultivation. Previously, the open field system was prominent. This system was problematic. Why? Because it allowed part of the land to remain unplanted at all times in order to avoid the depleting the soil. Since growing crops removes nutrients from the soil, a field must be replenished in order to continue to yield food. One solution to this situation was to continue to move crops to different land. This was not feasible in Great Britain because the country lacked a large percentage of available land. Instead, farmers began to utilize barren soil by planting different crops such as clover or turnips. These plants have roots which is very rich in nitrogen, a necessity for replenishing the soil. The cultivation of turnips was important because they could be left in the ground through the winter, and we know that Great Britain is a very cold country. This ultimately led to an increase in livestock because these plants were also utilized for grazing. So, I hope you are understanding the link now. The boost in livestock fundamentally changed the diet of much of Europe. Not only were Europeans consuming more meat, but the livestock was producing much needed fertilizer for crops. So, see the interconnection. The addition of fertilizer allowed an improved production rate per acre. By the beginning of the 18th century, the colder climate of the Little Ice Age had ended. The resulting mild summer months created ideal conditions for crop cultivation. So friends, when we discover more and more about agricultural revolution, new facts, new facets of agricultural revolution come in front of us. Globally, across different cultures, different countries, different societies, we will see different versions of agriculture revolution. Now, when we are talking about agriculture revolution in the present context, we have to remember one thing, that agriculture revolution led to the permanent human settlement called village. Now, you may wonder and must be thinking that in paper of urban sociology, why am I talking about village? Probably my focus is not more on village, my focus is more on permanent human settlement. And this aspect of permanent human settlement over a period of time, because now human civilization from now it is going to evolve. So, this first permanent human settlement in the coming decades and coming centuries, they have contributed tremendously even to the process of industrial revolution. So, agricultural revolution, whether you talk in Egypt or you talk in Britain or you talk in Fertile Crescent, or when you talk even in Asian countries including our own country India, we will see different diversified versions. Different kinds of crops, different kinds of soil fertility, and this was also reflected in different kinds of crop cultivation also. But agriculture revolution, in my personal view, if you track the entire history of mankind, my dear friends, I personally feel there have been three very critical revolutions which have transformed human society. What are they? Agriculture revolution, and of course, within agricultural revolution there are different phases, there are different stages, and different scholars have tried to elaborate on it on the basis of various archaeological excavations. So, first is agricultural revolution which led to village, and then after that we had our industrial revolution which led to cities, and the most latest recent revolution, recent in the sense probably for us it is recent, but if you see globally it is much older, the third revolution, which is IT revolution, which has led to formation of post-industrial cities. So, village to city, city to post-industrial cities, this is all interconnected and more evolved form of human settlement. And I am sure in coming few decades, mankind will see another revolution, probably more of genetic revolution, more of biological revolution, and probably, and when I say this, I am making a very responsible statement about this, probably this pandemic is a wake up call. When you talk with specific reference to India, many people say that green revolution, which was happened around 1970s, and as a result of which we introduced the high yielding variety seeds with specific reference to wheat. Green revolution was also another phase of agricultural revolution with specific reference to India. But of course, this is debatable, because when we talk about agricultural revolution, it is important for us to understand that in which context are we talking about it. And the present context here is with reference to the emergence of cities, how has agriculture revolution contributed. And we can have lot of reading on green revolution, and when you talk about green revolution in India, it again transformed Indian agriculture and Indian economy to a great extent. So friends, I hope you have enjoyed, you have liked this discussion, but as I told you and as I keep telling all my friends, that nothing is exhaustive, everything is evolving. More readings, more explorations, more discoveries, and all these things I will be very happy if you share with me on my email pandevini@gmail.com. And in next class, now you must be thinking that fine, agriculture revolution has happened, so everything is good. No, another major revolution is in the making. And what is it? Keep guessing, and I will meet you in my next class, and we will talk about another fantastic revolution which hit and which modified human society to a great extent. Thanks a lot. Be safe. Be happy, take care, see you all.